Hi, everyone, and welcome to the show. From Peterson's, I'm your host, Taylor Sienkiewicz, and you're listening to You Have a Cool Job, a podcast highlighting those who took their profession in a unique direction and what they did to get there. On this week's episode of You Have a Cool Job, we talked to Michele Hanley, an urban farmer. While her job title may seem like a bit of an oxymoron, Michele has built her business, Mile High Urban Farming, on the concept that people who live in urban spaces can in fact grow their own food. Michele has a history of creating huge gardens, which she learned from her grandfather.
We grew up living with my grandparents on their property, and even though he had sold the farm by then, he was an avid gardener, shocking, and he had this gigantic epic garden back in western PA with growing, and he grew the best stuff, and I would help. That was about 4 or 5 at the time, so my helping was mostly eating things.
Yes.
Eating all the tomatoes. I think I definitely ate twice as much I ever actually picked and actually got inside the house, but I helped. And when I decided to open my business, to start my business, the idea never left, the idea that I'd be carrying that on. He sold the farm not by choice, it was a necessity, and I know he always missed it. And so it was kind of a cool thing to introduce a Hanley-owned farm back to the world. So yeah, that was kind of the inspiration in starting that. I grew up with him teaching me a lot about gardening, of course, and just having my hands in dirt all the time, which is kind of, I found that was unusual. Most people don't have big, epic gardens in their backyard, whereas we did. And that's became a lost art, really. That people back, up until World War II, they had gardens and they grew most of their own food. People had much more tangible access to their food production. And we don't really have that now. Most people have never seen a farm, especially in the metro area. There's not a ton of farms hanging around downtown, certainly. But people are returning back to the idea of wanting to know their food production. The farmer's market motto, know your farmer. People want to know who's growing their food, where it's coming from, how it's being produced and made. And I think it's a cool thing about smaller farms, that people get the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, so did that concept of just bringing it into a metro area like this, is that what made you want to do specifically urban farming?
Absolutely, because it's also realistic. I'm living in Denver, people are not, and property is so expensive out here, you're not going to be able to buy a 5-acre plot of land to grow food in downtown Denver.
Right. And
most people, at most have maybe 1/10 of an acre, I think is the average lot size in Denver proper. So the urban farming really came from that idea of how can you help people in homes and with the space they have. A lot of people are growing things in their back patios in their apartments. How can they have that same tangible access to land and growing something, the nurturing and caring and for food in a smaller environment.
Right.
And a smaller scale.
Okay. So tell me more about then what your company does. You go to people's houses and you help them cultivate that?
Absolutely. If I come to their houses and we walk the land, we chat, we sit down and chat about what they want to do. Some people just want something easy peasy. Some people want very pollinator friendly, perennial type gardens that we set it up, it's kind of done, and every year they can just enjoy all the great flowers coming up and all the bees and hummingbirds and butterflies. Other people want to grow more food, so we set up and build some raised beds and get that going. I can be as kind of full herbal service as you need. I have one client that wants to, quote, walk out and pick. So I plant everything every spring. Yeah. I come out and weed, and basically he gets to just walk out and just enjoy the harvest, which kind of is ideal.
Right.
That's pretty much, some people I do the design for them, set them up, and they take out from there. Some people just come to markets and buy the plants. They grow every year, and that's it. So it depends on what people need. Some people have gardening experience and just need plants. Some people are just buying a home, and now they have land for the first time. Well, what do I do now?
Yeah.
How can I make this pretty? And what I want it to be. So it depends on what a client needs. I can tailor it.
Okay, so you do a lot of teaching with people though too.
I do.
Yeah. Okay. What are some of those creative ways that you've come up with for building these gardens, like you said, on an apartment patio.
Going vertical is an easy way to do that. And also too, just knowing what to plant. There are tomato varieties that can grow really, really, really well in patio, pots. Certainly lots of peppers and even some squashes. You can trellis and go up with them.
Yeah.
And you might not get as big of a harvest as if it's in a raised bed in the garden, but you'll still get a lot of food. More so than I think people realize. I think that's the key, is pairing people up with the best plants for their circumstances. Because you might want to have a big old beef steaky type tomato, unless you're realistically going to have a 4-foot diameter pot on your back porch. And even then, your harvest can be really, really small. So scaling them down a little bit to actually get some food is the key there.
Right. I mean, going beyond just you can't grow papayas in Denver, but you need the space for these certain things that do grow here.
Exactly.
Okay. So who are your main customers? Is it mostly homeowners?
It's a nice mix of people, because I do have the retail aspect to my business, where there's a lot of air plants and succulents. So a lot of apartment dwellers enjoy those as well as homeowners. And then, of course, on the gardening side, it is mostly homeowners or people who I help set things up in their back patio if they bought a condo or whatnot.
Okay.
So it's a nice mix, probably 70-30.
Cool. Okay, great. But not like people that have a lot of land. It's all pretty in very urban population areas.
Typically, yes. I am working with someone right now who bought about 30 acres outside the city, and it does want to kind of go down this road. So we're in talks right now to what we can best do to have them have a full 4-season farm.
Okay.
Yes, that's exciting.
That is super fun.
I know. It's like, I told her I had never had so much land before. My goodness, like walking the property, it's like, this is amazing.
Right. And then you can do what your grandfather did a little bit more with it.
Exactly. It'd be a true farm experience. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Cool. So why is it so important to you to make this accessible to people?
I think it's important that people, again, have that connection to their food. I mean, I think there's a big resurgence in the environmental movement. Of course, people are more on track with sustainability, zero waste movements. Of course, all the studies come out of our environment. People are caring more and more. I think also, too, the Michael Pollan's books really put people back in touch with the idea of knowing your food, following the food production line, and just better quality food. I mean, home gardeners have always known that you will never get a better tomato than one that's grown, that you're taking out the vine yourself. In terms of peak freshness and peak flavor. There's actually a study that came out that proves they weren't lying. That when commercial farmers were breeding and selectively breeding to have uniformity in ripening, so they can maximize their production, it removed the flavor unintentionally in tomatoes. So most tomatoes you buy at the big box store supermarkets are never going to taste right to people who've grown their own tomatoes. And that was always my goal when talking to people who didn't like vegetables. I didn't like eating tomatoes or whatever, because I never had a real one. And I wanted people to have real food and help them have real food and teach them how to have real food. I think that in a modern world, we love convenience, and technology is amazing, of course, but the downside is we do lose touch again with some of our more traditional ideas of food and how we make things, how we produce things. So I like the idea of being able to kind of loop that around in a way that brings people back to real, genuine food.
Right. So when did you start your company? I
started my company back in 2011.
Okay. Gotcha. And how did you get it off the ground and get things started?
I was working in academia at the time, hence the professor turned farmer. It's kind of a little short version of my path.
Okay.
I was working in academia, so I was working on the admin side of things, and I decided to pull the trigger, and I decided, I'm not a little risk adverse by nature, my personality. I decided I'll do a season at the farmer's market. Put the feelers out, see what happens. Worst case scenario, I've lost some Sunday mornings to sleep in, and the seasonal market fee. Worst case scenario, if it doesn't work, but at least I know.
Yeah.
And that's what prompted me to pull the trigger a little bit and see what happens. And then the first season went way better than I thought. Actually got some clients right off the bat too. Like, okay, this is viable. People are responding to what I'm talking about. People love the idea of this. They love my plants. this is doable. And so then I quit my job after that first season.
Michelle's previous job was in administration at Colorado Technical University, as she wanted to become a professor. But after graduating with her master's degree in history, the economy crashed and no one was hiring. So she shifted her perspective to other interests she had, which was how Mile High Urban Farming was born. Michele shared some of the key things she learned about the business world as a newcomer to the field.
Managing time is critical, and also managing and knowing your limits. You cannot possibly do everything. But unfortunately, small businesses, you almost have to at first. You are the marketing team. You are the accounting team. You wear way too many hats almost. And learning quickly to outsource certain things makes your life so much easier. That there are things that, like, building the website. The first website was really rough, and it was obvious I'm not a graphic designer.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't the worst website ever, probably, but it certainly wasn't professional looking, and I knew that was going to be a deterrent, so I quickly hired someone to set that up and do that for me. I mean, things even now with social media, being able to manage your social media accounts, these are skills I've had to quickly acquire along the way that I didn't have formal training on, and you have to adjust accordingly.
We'll get back to Michelle's story right after this. Are you searching for the right college, grad school, or trade school to fit your needs? Or are you studying for those entrance exams you need a good score on? Peterson's has you covered. With advanced college and scholarship search functions, test prep for everything from the SAT to the MCAT to the firefighter exams, and tons of free resources on our blog, Peterson's helps you find, get in, and pay for school, plus much more. Visit petersons.com today. Now, back to the show. Michele recounted how she's been able to connect with people over the years, embodying the know your farmer mentality. She describes the people she's worked with.
Probably my favorite project is my one client who jokes about I just want to walk out and eat everything.
Right.
For a number of reasons. He converted his front yard into his little mini farm area.
Cute.
It's adorable.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's fantastic is hearing from him how much healthier everyone's eating, how much even his wife's even joking, growing up, my boys never ate vegetables. Now they're out here picking things early so they can beat us to the punch. So they can get that cucumber or that strawberry or that whatever before anyone else sees it.
That's funny.
It's like hysterical. Like they're in their mid-20s now and they're in their 30s and now they're finally eating vegetables.
Right.
And that's because of you. And that was adorable. That made me very, very happy to hear. And also just the hearing how they're becoming more inventive at their cooking because they're harvesting this big old basket of tomatoes. Well, I got to start making some sauce. I got to start making this. Now he's branching out and making salsas and Bloody Mary mix. So he's, they're cooking a lot more. They're cooking different kinds of foods. They're experimenting and also a lot of baking. He has probably the best strawberry patch, better than mine.
Right.
His strawberries just took off and they're prolific, and now he's basically making strawberry pies every other week. And by default,
great.
I know it's like I think I'm gonna do some jam this year too, which is fantastic. You've seen that something that again we're talking 30 square feet total is feeding his entire family, including his grown children who come over. The neighbors are getting gifts of food as well. So they're doing little trades and exchanges.
Yeah.
So it's fantastic hearing that the difference that those plants have made for one family.
Right, and they've been able to really work with what they have, like with the tomatoes, just making a ton of different things with it.
Exactly.
It's great.
It's fantastic. So that's probably one of my favorite projects because it's so much fun. And just hearing constantly how much they're enjoying it is fantastic. This is our third season this year with his little farm experiment.
Yeah, and you get to really interact with people like that you're repeatedly going back to their house or apartment.
Exactly. I see new dogs that are added to the family, which is great. So so you really get to connect with people on a different level, I think, than, when you have a client you do the garden plan for, it's a little different. But that's definitely a fun project. I mean, the farmer's market's nice too, because farmer's markets invariably you have more connection with. And I have plenty of people who come by throughout the season just keep me updated.
Right.
Other cute one, the little kid walked up. My cucumbers that we bought are doing so good.
Oh.
It was adorable. It was like,
cute.
and me so happy that he's eating these vegetables and he likes it. And his dad's like, he loves checking every morning for school, running out and obviously in the summer kicked in. It's like, yep, every morning he runs out there to see if anything else started growing, how it's doing, is it ripe yet? So it's adorable.
That is super cute. Michele was able to take her career in a new direction when her first plan didn't pan out, and now gets to do something she's incredibly passionate about. We hope you're inspired by Michele's story to find your plan B if your first idea for a job wasn't meant to be, that makes you just as happy, if not happier, than your plan A would have been. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.